Riverside.
I am fearless.
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 You are fearless.
All right. Hello and welcome to the I Am Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Vickie, and I am here with Jenna. Jenna, you know what? This is going to sound crazy, but tell me how to pronounce your last name.
It's a hard one. So it's Sezionale Basilicato.
Where did that word? Tell me.
It's a long story. It is. But it's actually it's from Italy. And my family immigrated from Italy to Algeria.
Wow.
And that's where my grandfather was born. And his father died, I think, around the time he was born, and they stayed, and his grandfather was there. And then when his grandfather died, his mom brought him and his sister back to Italy. And he didn't speak any Italian, and he hated Italy because Algeria, he spoke French. And it was during Mussolini's time, and my grandfather actually ran away from his family and went to France and joined the French resistance to fight. Yeah. And so, Basilicata is actually a region in Italy. So when they registered the name, like Sezionale de Basilicato, and it got thrown into our last name, but it's actually a place. And over time, the A got changed to an O. And so, but yeah, throughout my life, people have called me Jenna SB because it's intimidating.
Very. I don't think I've ever even tried to say it or asked you. I just saw it and I was like, okay, that's my friend.
But yeah, it's a wild story. And my grandfather was in the French Resistance, and that's where he met my grandmother, because she was also, it was when the Nazis were occupying France, and she was 17, and he was older, a lot older than her, and she was beautiful, and she would distract the Germans, on the beach, and get them to look in her bikini. She would go down to the beach, and then the French Resistance was working.
That's wild. That is wild. I really love that you know so much about your family history. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So Jenna, tell us what you do.
What I do.
What don't you do, girl?
Yeah, what don't I do? I do a lot. Well, I think that's actually, before I go into the nuts and bolts, I like that frame. What I do is also who I am. Whereas that wasn't always the case. It was work Jenna, and then Jenna right outside of work. And I feel like I've created a life where I love what I do. And it's also who I am. It's actually very effortless. Yeah, so I do many things. I have a practice. I call it a practice instead of a company, because I'm always practicing through what I do. But I have a practice called Venture Beyond, and I offer coaching services and guiding. I call it coaching or life coaching because that's what people understand or can get a sense of, but it's so much more than that, and nuanced. But call it coaching or guiding, and I offer that through one-on-one services, group services, or group work. I do a lot of group work, transformational travel. So I'll bring groups and travel through plant medicine, and most recently through birth as well. So it might sound like a lot, and it's like, what's the common thread? And I would just say that my passion is to deepen with people over time in many different contexts. We are very complex and dynamic beings, and parts of ourselves are revealed in different environments with different people. And so I really love to journey with people over time. And the people I work with, it's very rare that it's a one time. Like, we'll do many coaching chapters together. So I don't work with anyone longer than 6 months, but you can come back for another round. And then a lot of people then will try a group, or will attend a workshop, or will go on a trip, or work with plant medicine. So, yeah, so that's Venture Beyond, and like I said, birth. And I can see myself over time incorporating death work as well. And that's not currently in the practice, but I definitely, yeah, these major transitions, and then the metaphor of, birth and death I work with all the time too, because we're experiencing it all the time. And then I'll just say that I'm also creating a new company called Rooted Expansion, which is a collective of heart-centered practitioners. So it's a place, it's a village, essentially, where people can come and, access different parts of themselves through different practitioners, through different modalities. Because I currently have a wait list for Venture Beyond, and I can't do it alone. So I'm not.
I think that, so I feel like I have to share some of our history because, girl, we've been on a journey and we have gotten deep, deep. So Jenna, like I first came to you for life coaching. No, actually, no, it was plant medicine is where we started. We did it our own way because
We did it our own way. We went deep fast.
I jumped in head first and was not looking for the bottom. So we started there, and then I went into coaching and the group work, and then you became my doula. That was that. I mean, it doesn't get any more intimate than that. And I've told you this like several times that since I've met you, you've changed my life. And we met in 2020, and I called that experience my Denver awakening because after I left there, I saw the world very differently. So I want to thank you for that. I do. I want to thank you so much for that, and I mean, thank you for being you. And I'm so glad that you're here. I know I said in the beginning, but I really mean it. But
I feel you.
I think that it's amazing too that in this time that we've met to see you grow, I venture beyond to where now you have a waiting list. Just wild. And now you have the second practice going on. What was it again?
Rooted
Rooted
expansion.
expansion. And that's amazing. Did you ever think that you would be doing what you well first let me ask you, where'd you start? Like how did you get into this? What did that look like? Story.
So this is a long story. You have to keep me on track. If you just bring me back. Full permission. So when I was in undergrad, I started studying business, which was really influenced by my father. And I had like a sense, it might have even been freshman year, where I was like, I want to study sociology. Like I want to go there. And I was very lucky that my parents paid for my undergrad experience. And I remember calling my dad and like telling him I was going to switch to sociology, and his response was, "I'm not paying for you to study that." And at the time, I'm not the woman that I am today. And I had a lot of fear. And did not yet have the bravery or the vision or the confidence to step out on my own. And so I didn't. And I said, okay, fine. Then I'm going to study sociology of the workplace. And so I ended up in the I did my business degree, but I did like a focus in organizational behavior, and then I ended up going into, it's like I stayed in the box I was supposed to live in, but I found my little corner that was mine. And I really tricked myself into thinking that I was living in alignment because I had found, right, I became a corporate coach. So I coached managers. I did a lot of like organizational dynamics, group dynamics. So I liked what I did within the workplace. But it was still like I went through these cycles of getting really bored after like a period of time, and then I would go and get a new project or I'd get a promotion and I'd be distracted for a period of time, and then the same thing happened. And I kept in this cycle for 7 years. So it was and I learned a lot. And I don't have regrets. But it took something really earth-shattering in my life to really switch things up. You know, I had, and I can go, it's so funny how my story changes over time. You know, like if we were having this conversation even like 5 years ago, like it would sound different. Like I would go into this relationship that blew up, like it was such a big part of my identity. But now I'm like,
On to the next.
It's not part of my story anymore. Like it's
the power, no longer acknowledge it, because it's like because I think it's like maybe because we realized that there was so much more there than just that. That was just such a small piece.
Totally. And I'm so grateful now to that like rupture in my life, because it created the opportunity for me to know myself, like in a way that I didn't even, like I had no idea. So I feel like that really kickstarted me on this journey. And I ended up 2 years after that time, I ended up deciding to quit my job. And because after this relationship ended, I became very disillusioned. I was like, what am I living for? Like a series of promotions at this job? Like, is this it? Like, is this what life is supposed to be? And I was like, what do I want? And I didn't even know, but I just knew that I wanted to travel and figure it out. And because I had a successful, I'm putting that in quotation marks, job by like societal standards, it also permitted me to have like to put money aside to then quit and travel. So I did that, and I knew like the whole time I was traveling, I knew I wanted to start my own coaching practice or to become a therapist. And I went back and forth for like a year and a half of like what to do, and even started a coaching program, certification program. And I'm very grateful to a lot happened on that journey. You know, I can talk about that later, but I'll just say that I left a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, thought I was going to be gone 6 months. A year and 8 months later, I'm in Peru. I'm living there. I'm working at an ayahuasca center, and I'm teaching yoga, where before I left, I didn't have a yoga certification. I didn't know what ayahuasca was, and I like had no idea that I had no plans to go to South America. So yeah, fast forward all of that, and I'm really grateful to my partner, who I actually met at that ayahuasca center in Peru. And I was doing this coaching certification program, and he just said, he's like, you're just scared to start.
Oh.
I love it though, but I love it. Like, he's like, you're just getting this piece of paper to to give yourself permission, and because you think it's going to give you like the confidence or the bravery or whatever to start. And I remember exactly where we were when he told me this, and I looked at him, and like it was like I really heard him because it was true. And then there was like no going back. So I dropped out of the program, and a couple things happened before I started my practice. I got scared again. I applied for jobs. I got a full-time offer. And it was actually a medicine journey. I did a solo medicine journey, like before accepting this job or not. And like, I was like asking the medicine, like, should I take this job? What should I do? And the experience I had was just the medicine kind of laughing at me, or me laughing at myself, who knows who it is, and just being like, girl, you're already walking your path. And I was shown all these people that was showing up with. Maybe I wasn't their official coach, but I was like, the fabric of who I am was very much activated and alive and well. And the medicine was whoopsies, was just like, call it what you will, dress it up with like the coaching hat or not. Like, this is who you are, and this is who you're meant to be. And you could either make it really difficult for yourself, or not. And so I didn't get like the straight answer I was looking for, but I got what I was looking for. And I turned down that job, and I started my practice. And I have never paid for advertising or marketing, and things have just been coming because I'm doing what I'm here to do. And what I didn't say about the conversation I had with my partner was, like, we all have growth edges and gaps and opportunities, and those become clear and apparent as we walk our path. And then we stop and we get the support that we need, right? So it's like, it's a complete illusion to think that you'll have everything that you need. It's like, you do the best you can, you take a step forward, you evaluate, and then you pick up more tools, and then you keep going, and then you pick up more tools. And to be in integrity with yourself, you have to be honest about where you're at and make sure you're doing your own work. And that's really what's necessary.
Wow. I think so many people get so comfortable with and we've talked about this before. You stepping away from your job, something that's so secure and by societal standards is you being successful, into starting your own business, and really even not knowing what you're going to start, but then it just kind of comes to you. I think that by taking those steps towards faith, you'll find it'll come to you. You'll find exactly where you're supposed to be.
Totally. And we live in a society where we're fed the illusion that there's like a known path, and it starts really young, like in school, like, oh, after I go to middle school, I go to high school. After I go to high school, I go to college. And even I'm saying that as if that's the norm, because it shouldn't be, and it isn't the norm for everyone, but we're kind of, and then you get a job, and then you find your special person, and then you buy a house, and you get married, whatever. Like there's like this path that's like, it's artificial. Like, and I'm not saying that it's not some people's path, and I'm not judging it. Like, whatever path is authentic to you is beautiful. But the truth is, most people don't know, like, don't even know that they have a unique path that's for them, that no one can tell them about, and no one can guide them. No one can show them the way. And it requires being I mean, I love the title of your podcast, like I am fearless, because it requires like stepping into the unknown and facing your fears and being brave and being really fucking uncomfortable and in this like very like intuitive, like unknown emerging. You have to like wait for like truth to emerge, and then you can take that linear and say, okay, I'm going there, so how am I going to get there? Okay.
Well, I love that. I love that. And you know what, I think it's important to point out that when you were sharing your story, how even though you were walking into the unknown, like you would kind of go back because you were still looking for jobs, and that's okay, because as long as you're still moving forward, that's still you being fearless. That's still like we all want to go back to what's comfortable and safe and what's familiar. But like I think that once you start taking those steps, you start realizing, oh well, I really enjoyed this, or oh, this isn't so bad, or oh, I'd rather live my life like this than like, you know, I don't know, whatever everyone else's idea of what that life should look like. I think your path should absolutely be unique to you, and we're all very different. Wow.
And feeling, I know you and I have talked a lot about mindfulness, like tuning into the truth of your experience, like is your greatest compass. And even though I was afraid, which is why I applied to other jobs before fully going out on my own, I was more tuned in to myself at that point. It just has kept getting more and more. There's always more. Like I have blind spots. There's more for me to tune into. But I was tuned in enough to know that I felt like I didn't feel like if I tried to step in towards that job, it wasn't in alignment. And I knew, not from my mind. I was trying to know in my mind, but it's actually my body that was like, no, like this is not the way. And I also don't want to paint a picture that it's like I stepped in to start my practice and like, woo, like it was just like I was there the next day. It took me a year to be self-sustained. And so I was working, I think initially I was working like 5 different jobs. Like I was working, it was wild actually. So I had started my company, Venture Beyond, and I think I had like 3 clients or something, 2 or 3 clients. And then I was driving for Uber. I was working at a concert venue, like at night, like standing, like security, minimum wage job. Like I had this like daycare gig on like on Saturdays because it was like accounting season for like accountants. Like that was shady too. Like, like, and then there was one more thing I did. Oh yeah, and then I worked for this company called Good Cinema. So like, which was great, and they would show thought-provoking films and host community discussions, and I did the organization, and it was like and then I got I had 6 jobs, and then I was a hiking guide. So I was working because I valued my like the time to create for my business. So I had to find these things where it was like on Saturday or like, once a month, but I had these 6 things. And then I think it took me like 2 months to be able to drop. Like I dropped the concert venue, I dropped the babysitting, right? And then I kept going with, like Uber, Good Cinema, and guiding hikes. And then eventually, right before you and I met, because I went full time in January of 2020, and I think you and I met in February. So it was like,
Wow.
and at that point, I dropped everything, but I was still doing the hiking gig every now and then because I really liked that one. And I actually met some clients like through that, like spending the day hiking with people, and brought in mindfulness. But my whole point of painting that picture is that like there were plenty of times when like I was in survival mode at the beginning, and that I was like, fuck, like am I going to be okay? Like where there was like doubt, like, and there would be periods like with the type of business I have with clients, like I work with people for 6 months and that's it, right? And then they come back for another chapter later, but it was the beginning. So it was like, where's the next person gonna come from? And it was just me trusting that it, like, I was gonna be okay. And something, there was a tipping point that happened where it was like all of a sudden people were finding me, like, because even you and I, we met through a
Yeah.
referral with somebody else that I'd worked with. So it's like, yeah. So, but that's the whole point of life. It's like I've experienced fear with this new company that I'm starting. It's like I'm putting in money. I have lawyers, like a website, and like no one's getting paid right now. Like I'm living through through Venture Beyond, and but then I was like, I get to do this. Like I get to try, regardless of what happens. Like I get to have this experience, and like, and so then that puts me in this mindset of like really enjoying it, which then attracts like more goodness to me, right? And yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I guess you were just saying, you like, even with this, do you feel like that you have ever been like in full alignment and said, you know what, yeah, like I'm just gonna do it, or do you think that it's normal to have like those reservations and self doubt kind of in the back of your head, and that you were just supposed to ignore it?
I think that, or at least in my experience, there's moments of that divine, like that like clarity, that like full alignment. Um and sometimes I'm in those moments longer than others, right? And I feel like I've learned to let those moments really nourish me. And there was a moment that I'll actually share in a second where things really changed for me, where I was able to be in faith. So I think that's really important. But something that you just said around the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
we all have different parts of ourselves that emerge, and it's learning to, first of all, gain awareness when these parts are showing up, and and to like work with these parts. So when doubt shows up, if I try to run away from doubt, it's going to come from me even more. But if I sit with it and I really feel it in my body, and I breathe into it, and I breathe trust and knowing, and also listen to what it has to say, I find that the more I look at things, like a better understanding I have of my internal landscape, and the more I can make decisions. Or yeah, so for example, with doubt, it's like doubt sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's coming from like a place of worry and scarcity and fear. And if I can really feel into the root of that, it's like almost like I can be like, oh, you're just scared. Like, it's okay. Like it's okay to be scared, and don't worry, you don't have to be the part that leads this charge. Like you can, I'll put you in the back seat, or I can hold you, or I can hold your hand, but like I've got this. And then I could move forward from this place of knowing and from this place of heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's also bringing that part along, which is very different, because if I move forward with the energy of fear and scarcity, that's what I'm feeding my action with, and that's going to come back around. So it's like, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But what I wanted to share was, I had a very, very powerful experience with ayahuasca in Peru. Yeah, I quit my job in May of 2017, and I ended up at this ayahuasca center in March of 2018 in Peru, and didn't have a lot of experience with psychedelics, and had like a profound, the whole retreat was profound, and then I ended up working there. And that first ceremony for me changed like everything. And it was actually related to fear. Like I was able to, a lot happened in that ceremony. I feel like I could talk about it for an hour, so I'm not going to. What I will say is that I realized that I was feeling this internal pressure to return back to Boston, which is where I was when I quit my job. And this and I had felt it the whole time I was traveling, and I was completely in denial that I would do anything else, right? I was like, well, I have to go back to Boston. And I was able to see that it was coming from this deep place of fear, because I had a really beautiful community, and I still do there. And I was afraid of losing love. Like I really made a home, a very codependent home in this place. And I was afraid of losing that and like letting that go. And in this ceremony, I had the experience of dying. I really thought I was dead, like in the, and I had this really deep knowing that like I have something that I'm supposed to not even just do, but like there's someone that I'm supposed to be in this life, and that I have to walk my path. It was almost like this ceremony was like I saw where I was living for others, but pretending I was living for myself, but I wasn't actually. And that the whole universe was conspiring to help me, and is always conspiring to help me walk my path. And like I just like had to go. And so I've never experienced such faith. I didn't even know what faith really was before this ceremony. Like I read about it, but it was like such a deep felt faith of like, this is what I have to do. And it's going to be okay. And it'll be scary, and it'll be a lot of different things. And that was the first phone call I made after that retreat, was to my best friend actually in Boston, and saying like, I'm not going to come back. And I'm really scared, but this is what I need to do. And her and I have really grown together, and we were able to unpack, because she had fears too. Like she had fears of being left behind. I had fears that she wasn't going to love me like anymore if I left. And so there was like a lot of difficult conversations that took place, but it was just like, I had to choose differently, and I had to leave, and I had to go. I had to go. It was time to go. And I didn't want to go because it had been so good to me, but it was time to go.
Wow. You said when we talked prior to this interview, and you talked about leaving your job, you said it was important for me to do, or I needed to do what was important for me at that moment. Something to that effect. What was it? Let me look at my notes, because I wrote it down. And it says, you said I had to do what was true for me in that moment. That's what you said. And I thought that was so good, because it is really about listening to your intuition, and intuition is also a deep felt feeling. And I think that with that tuition and faith being there, intuition and faith being there, combined together, it does something to your spirit. It generates movement, I think.
It does. And I'm getting emotional because I can feel what you're talking about, and also the grief. Like the grief that comes with it, and this part that's like, I don't want to go. Like, I want to stay here. Like, I like it here. Like,
just holding on because this, at least I know what happens here. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I finally, and honestly, I felt that way. I was in Peru this summer. I had 2 retreats, as you know, that I had down there, and a part of me at the beginning didn't want to go because I knew it was going to be a death for me in a lot of ways. And it's like the part of me that was born in Peru, or in myself, but in 2018, in that ceremony that I just talked about, it's like I have spent the last 4.5 years or 4 years or whatever, how long ever it's been, like becoming what was born that night. Like something shifted, and it didn't, and then I had to grow into it. Like it was like a whole process, and I have worked so hard, and I have done so much work. And it was like, I felt like earlier this year, I was like celebrating a lot, like, and I felt like all these things were closing. Like I was having all these completions and all these successes. And then a part of me got really scared and was like, fuck, this chapter's coming to a close. And like, I have to do this again. Like I have to rebirth myself again. And I'm talking about the pain of it now. Like there's a lot of excitement too, but there was a lot of like, oh my God, I have to walk into the dark again. Like, how long am I going to have to be there? Like, because it was hard last time too. Like I walked through some dark places, and I'm so glad I did. I would do it again. And that's why I went to Peru, but it brought up a lot of emotion for me again. It felt like I was like going back to later rest, this like part of me, and it's like this new, I'm moving into like a new phase. And it's very symbolic with these companies. It's like I started Venture Beyond after Peru, and I've really grown it, and now like it's time for something else. And Venture Beyond will still be there, but it's like, so just circling back to the quote you wrote down, it's like there's a time for everything. And just because it's time to change doesn't mean it was bad, right? It just means it's not time anymore. Like it's time for something else. And it can be so easy to deny and be like, I'm not going to look at that. Like, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. Like it's nice. It feels good, but it's like something, the seasons have shifted, right? And there's an ending and there's a beginning, and
Wow.
And it never ends. It's like like it never ends. And we enjoy it. How do we enjoy it? Like it's also great.
Wow. Oh my God. I think we are gonna have to end this. This has been so amazing, Jenna. I like because the episode is only 30 minutes long. That's kind of like but we've gone over a little bit, but no, we were had some chatting before, and I kind of just randomly started, but wow, Jenna, this it has been beautiful sitting here talking with you and hearing about, listening to your story. There's so much that I've learned about you today, so I'm so grateful that you shared it with us. And before you go, I wanted to ask you one last question. Maybe 2, but one of them is, what does success look like to you?
It's changed a lot, but I would say today, success is spacious. It is easeful and effortless and abundant. Yeah. And abundant, maybe not in the ways that I originally thought, right? Like what I value the most is time and spaciousness, feeling like I have time to enjoy and breathe. Yeah. So it's also living a life that's aligned with the truth of who I am today. And today, and in this moment. and the ability to shift and honor like the person that I am in that moment, and actually allow the environment around me to like nourish and support that part instead of me constricting who I am to like meet the environment.
Whew.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Girl, but like when you talk sometimes I'm like it's like something speaking through you. But I'm like, oh, that's like, because there's this saying that when you hear the truth, you'll know it, even though you may not have ever heard it before. When you hear it, you'll know it and you'll feel it, and that's that intuition. That's that because you're speaking to a deeper part of me. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
One more. Okay, what is the one piece of advice that you wish someone had given you when you first started your business?
Yes. I would say I would go back in time and I would tell that me that was starting off, I would just say, just you wait. You have no idea. You have no idea. And it might seem to you right now that you are building a practice to help other people and to be of service, right? Because that's how I started. That was like, oh, I want to do that. And the biggest illusion is that that's the only thing that's happening, and that what you are actually doing is building like a mystery school so that you also learn the lessons that you're meant to learn in this lifetime. And you have no idea how much you will receive in this process. And so I would say not everything is as it seems. Pay attention. You are the student and the teacher. And don't forget that.
Wow. 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 Go ahead.
Because I will say when I first began, right, like I learned a lot. And I thought at the beginning that I was supposed to have all the answers. And maybe this is the piece of advice. And I didn't realize that actually when I let go of having the answers and when I allowed myself to really not know and really meet like a client from this place of like, I have no idea. Like when I started doing that, all the answers came, and they came through the client because I wasn't trying to have them.
Whoa. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow.
So like, what?
Phenomenal. Like, I'm like thinking about what you said, and I'm just like, because even with this, I left my laptop. I don't know like what the heck I'm doing on this app, but as we're talking, the answers are coming in, and I think that is exactly when you are supposed to, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Where even though things aren't perfect, you don't know. When I walked up, I said I was laughing at myself, like cackling on crossing the street. Like I don't know how the hell this is gonna go. And I just had to laugh at myself. And a few years ago, I probably would have broke down crying or said, you know what, Jenna? No, I can't do it. Like, let's just reschedule. Like, no. But
Yes,
fuck that. You just have to go with it. Even when you don't know, you will know. And I mean, because you'll learn today. Like, the day will teach you the lessons as long as you're paying attention.
totally. As long as you're paying attention
And
and embracing that you don't know. As soon as it creates an openness to then see what is there, because everything is always there.
yeah.
But when the vision is small, when it's like, oh, I know this,
Yeah.
then there's all this actually that you don't know that you can't see until you're like, I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's get curious. Let's ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out of the way is the biggest lesson I've learned, and what makes me good at my job is actually the parts of me that I allow that don't know, and that really allow for possibility, because I haven't limited it by my limited understanding of what I think will happen or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we could keep talking.
Girl, we can go.
I think that's it.
Literally go all day. Oh my gosh, Jenna, I love you so much.
I love you so
Oh my
much.
gosh. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that you agreed to be a guest on my show. This is so cool. This is so cool to say that too. Like, oh, I got a show. And Jenna, just before you go, where can we find you? Where, like, media, website, drop all your info.
Yes. So my website is iventurebeyond.com, and you can find me there, and you can send me a message there. Yeah, I think that's the best place. And then Rooted Expansion is coming. It has not dropped yet. So if you go to the homepage is I am rootedexpansion.com. And if you go there, it'll say it's under construction, and we're on the second iteration. It's looking really good, and it'll be out soon. I don't know when, but in definitely a couple months. So that's coming.
Okay, so hold up. This is so interesting because I did not know that was like you're leading your company name with an affirmation. And girl, you are.
Mhm.
You are.
That's
Yes. That's amazing, Jenna. Oh my gosh. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you. And I am, like I said, I'm so grateful. I feel like that there's so much valuable information in here. And yeah, Jenna, so thanks so much. And wow, thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for creating this. I love growing with you, Vickie.
I love growing with you too. It's been a beautiful journey, friend.
It has. It continues to be. So to the
Yes,
next.
girl.